listening to The Samuel Angler, and my daddy's the host.
All right. Special thanks to my sweetheart for the introduction, and welcome to the Sustainable Angler. I'm your host, Rick Crawford. Today, I'm going to keep this intro and episode really brief because today, October 1st, 2025, is the last day that you can submit public comments to the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission. I've got Scotty Davis from American Saltwater Guides Association, who they've put together a guide and a resource for how you might like to submit public comments, and provides some additional educational materials than what we discuss in the podcast today. But the purpose of today's podcast is just to get anglers engaged and active in their fisheries management. And you can do a lot for the conservation of redfish by submitting your comments today. So with that, we're going to dive right into the episode. Thanks for listening, and thanks to Scotty for bringing this to my attention. Appreciate it. Fishing taught me that everything in nature is interconnected. Just as a fiddler crab, a tailing redfish, and a marsh ecosystem are connected, so are our businesses and our planet. And we have a vision of businesses and the environment thriving together. Imagine a company that not only champions the sport of fishing, but also leads on climate action and conservation efforts. Products and packaging that are friendly to marine life and that degrade harmlessly back into the earth. It's not a dream, it's a strategy, and that's what we do at Emerger Strategies. We guide businesses on their sustainability journey by helping them measure and improve the sustainability performance of their operations, products, and packaging, all while boosting profits. Because when nature thrives, we all thrive. Together, we can make a difference for generations to come. Visit our website at emergerstrategies.com. Let's protect what we love together. All right, so today, this is a special episode. I may not even re-edit an intro like I normally do. So I'm going to do a quick introduction. This is Scotty Davis, local Charleston fly fishing legend, I'll say. But also, Scotty is also with the American Saltwater Guides Association. And if it wasn't for Scotty, these new redfish regulations and public comment period would not have been on my radar. And that's what we're here to talk about today. So I kind of want to just, Scotty, if you want to do any sort of brief intro to yourself and this subject, and we'll just dive right in.
Yeah, for sure. So good morning. Basically, today's the last day to vote on this. It had public comment open for certain states over the last month, but the gist of it is the 2024 benchmark stock assessment came out, and the southern states, which is South Carolina and down, is experiencing overfishing and is overfished. There's lots of reasons for that. We're not going to go into that, but the major, there's 5 things they're voting on in this basically. And the major one that we need to be concerned about is the spawning potential ratio, which is since 2002 has been set at 40%. One of the options that they came up with to fix this problem is to just lower the spawning potential ratio to 30%, right? So you can see all this graphs have been going around that lower line. That's where we are. We're well below the threshold of 30%. We need to be at 40%. So that was one of the management options, was to let's just lower it, and then we can say we are within our threshold. It was kind of misleading, I thought, at the meetings and how they worded things also, because they said that if you drop it to 30%, you're going to be able to increase anglers access. And then if you drop it to, or you keep it at 40%, you're going to have less angler access. I think they meant to say harvest. I guess access is relative to that, but I thought it was pretty misleading. So basically, we need to keep them honest and keep the status quo at 40% and not drop to 30%, because that's a whole world of problems there. And the spawning potential ratio is the amount of fish that actually go offshore to be able to spawn. So that directly correlates to more fish in the water, which is what everybody wants.
So let me wrap my feeble brain around this. So they set a spawning ratio, and by they, is that DNR, or who
The
is
Atlantic States Marine Fisheries
okay?
Council.
So Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission, which helps to regulate and keep our fisheries healthy and abundant, says that at a minimum we should aim to have 40% for healthy redfish stocks. We are currently below 30%, if that's what I understand.
Correct.
And rather than say, okay, we need to make some changes to stop the decline to get us closer to 40, they're saying just go ahead and bring it down to 30.
Yeah.
And who is and is that Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission is saying this?
Correct.
So
then the states, each individual state would only have to hit that target.
Would have to hit the 30% target.
Correct.
But which we're already below, so we already know that it's in decline.
Correct. It's been a steady decline since the late 80s.
Okay, so the next question for me, and I have first of all, thank you for bringing this to my attention. I love to redfish. Yeah. You love to redfish. We're South Carolina. It's kind of South Carolina, Georgia coast. It's kind of our thing, right? And this is deeply troubling to me because I don't see how we can keep lowering standards and for conservation and expect a great outcome. So the next question I have is, how can we? You mentioned the deadline is today, October 1st. Actually, tonight. I guess it right before midnight, essentially. So the end of day today. We can submit a public comment. Is that how we can take action?
Yeah, if you go to the website, it's just asmfc.org. There's a banner at the top and it says seeking comments. You just put your name, what state you're from. And a lot of people that are new to the commenting thing, they'll just say, we love redfish. We got to protect these things. We got to do what we can. But what they're actually looking for are like, on 3.1, this is how I feel. On 3.2, this is how I feel. They're taking the comments and need to put them in the form. They can't just say, we got 2,000 people that love redfish. Right. And the Saltwater Guides Association, Tony did a really good job of kind of surmising everything into a one-page document that's readable by people like me. I can't hardly read those science documents. It's like a 200-page sleeping pill. But he did a good job. And you can see kind of how the Guides Association would vote. And if you don't agree with that, you can vote your own way. Just say something. You got to be heard, or we don't have a dog in this fight. So that's the easiest way. You could, I guess, mail-in comments are too late. So really the only way to do it left today is to email Tracy and the people at ASMFC through their website.
So I'm on which I submitted. I submitted my comments today. And what I did was because I agreed, not just blindly just copied and paste all this. But if you go to Saltwater Guides Association's website, I don't know how I got here. I got here through y'all's Instagram page. I'll put a link to this,
Yeah,
but
it's just Saltwater
basically it's the
Guides Association.
guide to draft addendum 2 for Atlantic red drum management. And they have Saltwater Guides Association had recommended positions for sustainability, and that is where you could simply do a little. I did a little intro, like, "Hey, I'm from South Carolina. I love to redfish. I want to protect them for myself, selfishly, but more so for my kids and future generations." This is kind of part of our culture here. And then I copied and pasted their recommendations, which I agreed with, into that and submitted. So, I mean, it took a minute. I mean, it's like,
Yeah,
this is maybe the easiest and impactful thing that you could do for redfish today, for sure.
yeah, yeah. It definitely would take longer to figure out what's going on than actually submit the comments. The
Yeah.
the other things, 3.1 was to establish processes for the management measures. The ASMFC is admitted that the old method of it's called Vaughn and Carmichael for the nerdy folks who are listening. It's outdated and it's not the best available science. So obviously, we need to be using the best available science. So that would be our vote on that, was to make sure we're using the best data and the best science. Right? That's just kind of common sense.
And then, and that, just for everyone, is what I'm looking at the Saltwater Guides website, is option B, establish process to adjust management measures. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. What's next?
Option 3.2, the Guides Association stance is option A, which is to keep using the regional stock assessments.
Yeah.
Option B says the states could use their own stock assessments. So we kind of want a centralized data. If South Carolina decides, hey, we don't, it just needs to be standardized, right? Option 3 is, or 3.3 is the big one, really. That's the 40% spawning potential ratio for conservation. So definitely, if you're going to vote just on one thing, that's the one. 3.3, option A, is what we need to make sure they stick to. The other two don't really concern us. Well, they do. The northern stock is considered North Carolina up, and that includes the Chesapeake Bay region as well. They say in the stock assessment that the northern stock is not experiencing overfishing, but it's rapidly growing. With striped bass on such a decline, there's increased pressure on redfish in that area. So they're being proactive on that side, is trying to get ahead of this before they start experiencing problems too. And 3.5 is silly. It's demeritus status. It's a Latin word saying if a state only contributes 1% of the population or 1% of the catch ratio, they don't have to follow these rules. Basically, it's 3.5. So like Maine doesn't catch redfish, so they don't really get a vote or a seat, I guess you would say.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's basically it. That's their recommendations for those 5 points, and that was, yeah. Which
I completely agree with all those. 3.3 is kind of the big one that we're talking about, because it's, if you see any of the graphs, if you listen to this, which we're trying, I'm going to turn this around today. So this is kind of a real quick turnaround on this, but I'm trying to get, thanks to Scotty for bringing this to my attention. I'm a little late to the game on this, but better late than never. And we're trying to get as many people to submit comments today in support of this, with 3.3 being the biggest one. To me, that's like the most, it's certainly the most alarming out of all of them, because we're below a 30% thresh or SPR right now. and we're trying to be at 40%, lowering the bar makes no sense. So I think that, you may have a different opinion for whatever reason on the other options, but that to me is the most obvious thing that needs support and comment for to keep the target at 40%.
Yeah. This is since 2002, this is only the second amendment they've ever had for redfish too. So, and to think that they would lower the bar like that is kind of shocking,
Right.
like
So then it's like,
that's
well,
not
what's
management.
next?
And yeah, that's not management.
Yeah. I mean, so let's say they do it again in 10 years, just hypothetically. I don't know how often they do it, but just making this up. In 10 years, it's at 20%. They lower it to 20% and say, don't worry, the fishery's still good.
Right.
We're just we're just going to lower the
We're
bar.
within the boundaries of, we're within the parameters where we're supposed to be.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Well, Scotty, do you have any other thoughts or insights on this particular issue? I mean, I think
That's basically it. I mean, we got to get through this first, and then we can get, then SCDNR will start talking about bag limits and size limits and things like that, things we can do for reductions to help. But we got to pass this first, or there's nothing to fight about.
so.
And
How
there's no
does
problem, right? If this doesn't pass, then there's no problem with
right?
redfish, and we don't even need to adjust any slots or anything.
So for those out there listening, how this is we sort of have this. How does this work? How does this process work? Just for everyone's own education on this, if they've never gotten active with fisheries
Yes.
management before.
So basically, ASMFC will make or they'll make their final decision, and they'll take that to legislation. And legislation is the one that's going to ask, well, what's the public comment on this? What does the public think? Because that's who keeps them in office, right? But
Yeah.
so they'll have their recommendations, but they'll submit that with the public comments, and
Okay.
then the legislation is the one that will pass any laws.
And then based off of that, how does South Carolina DNR, how do those limits interact with this, I guess?
So if we maintain the 40% where we're trying to get to, then it would trickle back down per state, right? So then South Carolina would have to do what they need to do to reach that. I think it's 28% reduction they're needing. So yeah, that's it. Then we would go to the next steps. There's already people voiced a lot of public comments about size and slot limits and things like that, even some closed seasons. But the last thing we want to do is not there should be no targeting, so we'll be allowed to fish. It's just going to decrease the catch, or the harvest.
Yeah, which I mean, maybe I live in a bubble, but I don't know a lot of people that keep redfish. I don't care for the taste.
I think we're an 85% release is what the South Carolina said, but with an 8% mortality, that's still millions of dead fish every year.
Right.
But
interesting. All right, cool. Well, Scotty, we said we were going to keep this one short and sweet so I can get this thing turned around.
Just everybody can get in there and vote, and then we're a step ahead.
So where can people, they can go to Saltwater Guides Association's website.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, click the news and then hit redfish, and then you can get all the info there. You can find links to where to vote there as well.
Okay.
Or you can go straight to asmfc.org and click that banner at the top that says redfish public comment.
Okay, but if all of this is a little confusing, but you more or less agree with everything we've just said, the easiest thing is to go to Saltwater Guides Association's website, click news, redfish, copy and paste that section of their recommendations, that's just my own personal opinion, so take that with a grain of salt, but I agree with all of that. So I copied and pasted it and put it in to my comments. But the big one is 3.3. I think if you care about redfish and conservation for redfish today and in the future, that's a one that you want to keep at 40% SPR. So I think that's kind of my takeaway anyway, unless you have anything else.
No, I think that's perfect.
All right. All right, cool. Scotty, I would love to do a more in-depth interview with you at some point, but we're trying to get this thing recorded and spit out. So I'm going to say stay tuned for a part 2 with Scotty at some point, where we'll be a little bit maybe less serious and have a little bit more fun on the show, but also talk about some fisheries issues in South Carolina. But we're going to cut this one short and get this thing out into the universe, and maybe we can get a few more folks to submit public comments for redfish.
That's it, man. Let's make a difference.
All right, cool. Thanks, Scotty.
All right, brother. We'll see you soon.
All right. Special thanks to Scotty Davis for joining me on the Sustainable Angler podcast today and for bringing this to my attention. Also want to give a quick shout out to Captain Chad Dubose, the Georgia Saltwater Guides Association, who has also been bringing people's attention to this matter. But if you want to submit your public comments, today is the day. You have to do it by the end of day. Today is October 1st. So you have until basically 11:59 p.m. to submit your comment. American Saltwater Guides Association has a great article on this that you can go to News, Redfish, and click the Guide to Draft Addendum 2 for Atlantic Red Drum Management. You can find, if you agree with everything we talked about in the podcast, you can just copy and paste that and submit it through the ASGA website, or go directly to the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission website and write your own comments. But it's important for us to advocate for conservation of redfish in our area if we want to support a sustainable fishery today and in the future. So thanks for taking action, and thanks for listening to the Sustainable Angler podcast.